Hello, welcome back. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Bottling Bench. Part 10 now of the build of this lovely Airfix Alvis Stalwart in 1/35th scale. Kit number A1381. And what a lovely little model it's turning out to be. So, if you haven't already seen it, I've done a second build as well, a second build of a floor to look at this front panel area. So, moving along, we were working on, in part 9 we were working on the suspension. I have now gone on and added the centre two wheels because otherwise it meant me sort of just putting them on and then waiting for them to dry and everything. And as you can see, I've got the whole thing stood on these two aluminium blocks. Now, whenever I use these, I always get asked what they are. They're just two 20mm square aluminium blocks. Okay, that's all they are. You could use steel, you could use plastic, you could use wood, anything as long as they're parallel and you could put them on a flat surface. Remember, you know, if you have parallel blocks and you put them down on something like this, which is all up and down or got bits and pieces underneath it, then, you know, exaggerated, you might have one like this, so they won't be parallel. Put them on something which will ride all that. So if there's a little bit of plastic, you know, if there's a cocktail stick, come here. If there's a, this is not a cocktail stick, this is those lovely little cotton buds that Steve got me. If that's under there, it's not level, but it's still parallel, okay? Because the board is not deflecting under the weight. All right, so bear that in mind. So those two aluminium blocks are there, that acrylic sheet is there, and what we've done, we've basically, if you we'll go back over it. We did one, okay, and we let that dry and got the height. Then we did the other one, and we let that dry and we set it up so that it was level, okay, level across. Then we've done the front two to keep them square with those and keep everything level this way. And then with it sat on those four, on those parallel blocks, I have basically put these in the middle. So now you will see that if I put this parallel block up against the bottom of these hubs, you can see that they are all touching. Okay, and that's the objective, is to make sure all the wheels sit on the ground and that everything's nice and level. Now, I still haven't glued them to the wishbones. They're still not glued in. Now, what we could do here, if you want to, is leave it like it is, okay? Or we could glue them on. Now, these upper wishbones here, they're still not glued to anything. They're still free to move around, so bear that in mind as well. Now, what you might want to do is not glue them to the bottom. I'm not going to glue them to anything yet because I may want to just move them around like this to get the wheels straight or whatever. You can see you've got lots of play in there, so I may actually leave them so that we can do that. But we can see here that this wishbone here is sitting slightly high as we look at it now. I'm not going to worry about that. Right, so I need my cardboard block to stand the thing on because otherwise we're going to break the back end. As I say, when I build another one, I'm not going to do any of this work here. I'm going to do this and these sides and then crack straight on with the suspension, because right now we're standing it on here and all the top of the roof and everything, and not really sure that's the best build sequence to go with. So I'll put those to one side. In fact, I'll put them away. So, and I'll put this away as well. Let's have a tidy workbench, shall we? Right, so now we're going to crack on with the steering. So if you remember, these parts here we've already added. They're in there. They're not glued yet because the upper wishbones aren't glued. And now we're going to start looking at the steering. So we've got to link up these front two, what are they, left-hand steering arms. And we're going to use, for that, we're going to use D27. Excuse my fingernails, guys. They're especially dirty today because I've been doing some dirty work in the garage. I've been cleaning some really dirty parts on my Fiat 131. If you haven't seen that channel, go take a look. Please subscribe. And I want to get to 500. I'm 428 at the moment. I want to get to 500 and then I can monetize it and remove all the annoying adverts that YouTube are putting in. So there we go. It's really annoying the way that works. You've got a channel with less than 500 subs, so you can't monetize it, but YouTube plaster adverts all over it anyway. And then I can't change them. You don't watch me because you're fed up with adverts every 2 minutes. So I don't get any subs, but they get the money for the ads. So great, isn't it? Right. There we go. So we've got this part here, which is D27, and if we look at it on the instructions, we can see that this sort of nubbin here in the middle is to the rear, so it's going to go that way round. That's going to go that way round, sorry. So this is going to go, that section there is going to go into there, and these two pins are going to go into the arms. So let's just put that one in there. We'll feed that arm into there. This is a bit awkward. There we go. It's a bit of a squeeze, but it does go in, look. As I say, this would be so much easier if we didn't have all that superstructure on the top. Okay, so that's gone in there. Right, and I'm just going to put a drop of cement on one end. In fact, I'll do it on both ends. There we go. I'm not gluing it in there because that will enable us to move the wheels to get the wheels parallel. What I'll do when it comes to actually fitting the wheels, I will put super glue on these, and I will stand it on its wheels and let the wheels just set against parallel blocks, so the wheels will sort of find their own bit, and there's a little bit of play on there, I think, from memory. Yeah, there's plenty of play on there. So what we'll do is we'll put super glue in the back of there, plonk these on, and then we'll hold them parallel between a couple of blocks or something, and make sure they all end up facing the same way with the same camber and everything. That's the main thing about models like this, is having everything straight. If you have all the wheels all over the place and one wheel up in the air, it looks bloody awful. Right, so that's that D27 done. Next now is C23, which is a steering arm. That's that one there. So we'll get that one off. Oh, it's attached on that end as well. Okay, and then we'll get that ejector tab off. Just cut that nubbin off of there. Get rid of the seams on there. There we go. And then I'm going to get a sponge and just go over the top just to remove the seams on there. Okay, and then this is going to fit onto here like so. So that's going to go into there like that. Okay, so it's got a pin on there. It's got a pin on there that's going to go into a hole here, in there, and that's just going to basically go in there like that. And it's also got, look, a recess for it to pop into, so that's a nice touch. We can put a drop of cement into there, that'll be enough to hold that in place. We'll put a drop in there as well. Okay, and then D24. So there's D24. It's got some flash on it there around the ejector tab. So we'll clean those up. Get our little sponge. Give that a sand, just like so. And then this is going to go onto the end of that piece we've just put on. I've just noticed I've still got a seam line on there, so we'll get rid of that. That's going to go into there and into there like that. Right. So a touch of cement on there. and a touch of cement on there. So that's our left hand steering gear done. I've now got to do the right hand side. So I'll get this done. It's basically exactly the same, it's just for the right hand side rather than the left hand side, and then we'll move on to getting this belly on. Back in a second. Okay, so there's all our steering gear all done now on both sides, and if you note, the wheels are still easy to move around, so that won't be a problem at the end of the day. Right, so this belly pan's going to go in now. So it's a lovely fit, just slots in like that. Job done, no problem whatsoever. Really nice fit. So I'm going to drop a cement into there. It will capillary around or wick around or whatever you want to say. Put a drop in there and a drop in there. Drop in there and there. And then a couple of drops at the back. There we go. We'll put a couple of drops in there as well. There we are. Okay, so that's our belly pan fitted. It's coming together really quickly then. I think we can start putting it down on its wheels actually. Right, so let's have a look in here. We've already done that, fitting the disc brakes, greeblies. Do we want to do those yet? Yes, we've got greeblies going all over the place. So what we'll do here, we will put those bars away. We've done all the disc brakes and stuff. So we've got some handles and stuff going on. So C6 and 7. C6 is this side. So we'll get that off of there. We've got lots of cleanup on these. Behind me there's an ejector tab on both sides. So we've got some cleanup there. Nice and flat, and then we'll cut the tab off there. Clean that up in there. There's going to be a seam inside there as well, which we need to scrape away. Right, so this one was C6, so it's going on this side. And that is going to go into there. So we want to get a nice, neat and tidy joint. Looks like the hole is a little bit too small for the pin. We'll just try once more. Come here. It does go in. Okay, you could almost just snap fit that and leave it. And then I'm going to put a drop of cement in the back there, and that'll capillary around, wick around, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm just going to brush some tool cleaner over there just to make sure we have no seam remaining. Seams on bits like that look bloody awful. So C40 is on the other half of the C sprue, which is here. No, that's E. Here we go, this is the other half of the C40. I see there's a company now doing an update set for this with lots of 3D printed parts in it. Under the Armour, is it they're called, I think. So I'm leaving that ejector tab on there, it helps me hold it. And just go around and remove any mould seams because they look unsightly. Nothing worse than round parts with mould seams all over them. Right, there we go. So we'll take that one off of there and that one off of there. Then remove those gates, and then with a knife just run the inside. And then this is going to go into pre-drilled holes. Now I'm not sure how far in it's got to go. We've got this, we're just going to have the large part showing. So are these actually too big to go into the holes? It looks that way. Or is it the mould seeds that are making them too big? Right, let's have a quick measure. I know those holes are 1 mm diameter, and that's 1.14, and that's 1.12, so we need to drill them out. So these horrible little drills here, I do have a 1.1, so I can get into there and just drill that out. I won't do the other side because the other side, we don't ever just assume the other side's going to be the same. Never assume anything. Right, so that should now go in there. It's still bloody tight. What I'm going to do is put a little drop of cement in each hole, and that will act as a kind of lubricant. Nope, they're still not going in. 1.2. We're going to have to go 1.2. Now it will fall in there. There we go. Look, that one's still not going in. Push them in so that we've just got a bit of the large diameter showing, so it acts like it looks like a weld. There we go. And then a drop of cement in there, and again on the outside. Make sure it's perpendicular to the surface. There we are. So that's our 2 steps in there. Okay, I'm also going to get the glue and run the inside of there, just to hide any mould seams. So I've got to repeat that on the other side now. Obviously I'm not going to bore you with that, so I'll see you back in a second. Okay, so we've got those on, and now we're moving along. We've got these little greeblies going on the front. So we've got C4 here, which is absolutely slathered in bloody ejector tabs. So that took a lot of cleanup. And then we've got these little pieces here, little eyes for something or other. So these are maybe hinges for that water deflector thingy. So you can see they're a lovely fit. These are the holes we drilled with a 1 mm drill back a few parts ago. Some of you were probably wondering why these videos are so detailed. It's because it's how I like to do them. I like to show absolutely everything happening and not sort of just, you know, have a video, bang bang, there you go, there it is built. Yeah, hopefully you're enjoying it. The beginners can learn something from it. If you've got this model and you're a bit unsure about how something goes, you can see how I tackled it and see if I had the same problems. Drop of cement under each one of those, and then I'm just going to push that in, push that in, push that down. Make sure that center pin tool is straight. There we go. You wouldn't want to get driven into that, would you? Not banging you on the head with the back of that. Right, so that's all done. Obviously clear parts I'm not going to put in yet. What I will do is, as I've done on the front here, is paint around the window frames black, and then also go around the edges of the clear parts with the black pen, which I always do, as you know. So, E6 or E5, now I can't remember now when it told us which one to use with which radio, so we are going to use E6. So here is our E sprue, and E6 is the smaller one. So while this is still on the sprue, I'm just going to go over it lightly with a sponge and get rid of any mold seam that's on there. Okay. And then that is going to sit in that hole on the top of the roof. Now remember, that hole that you drill from inside ends up putting the antenna off center, so it's a very sloppy fit. Dottie thinks there's someone at the door, but it was a seagull or something landed on the roof. There we go, so that's nice and central now in there. So that's our antenna base. And then moving along, we have A6, which is the roof spoiler, if you want to call it that. That's just going to glue into those slots in there. So that's just going to sit on there like that. So what I'm going to do is pick this up and just touch in with the cement on a couple of them. That'll be enough to hold it. Okay, so that's that held in place, and then we'll put a drop under each one of them there. There we go. There we are. Right, I wonder what that is. I wonder what it's for. Maybe it moved down or something, I don't know. Okay, so now we've got to move on to these parts here. So we've got two C8s. Again, here what we're going to do, I'm going to cut the sprue away. Okay, and then nice piece for stretch sprue there. And then what we can do is cut these ejector tabs off. And while it's still on the sprue, we can just support them. Go over like that. That's them cleaned up then. It saves you trying to hold tiny fiddly little bits and clean them up. So there we go. So we're going to glue these on. So these are going to go into, these are moulded holes. So these are going into those holes there. Again, they're a nice snug fit. All of this is fitting really well. It's nice when you can fit this stuff. Yeah, spoke too soon, didn't I? It's nice when you can fit this stuff and then glue it afterwards, is what I was going to say. So that's going into there like that. Right. So I'm going to take this one and turn it over because it seems to fit better the other way up. Yeah, isn't that weird? So we'll have those sitting back straight, just like so. There we go. Okay, and then we've got C3, which is here. Get that sprue gate sanded off, just like so, and then there's going to be mould seams on the corners, so we'll get those scraped away, just like so. And then this is going to go into the 2 holes we drilled earlier, so we'll get this in some tweezers so that you can see what I'm doing. Let's concentrate on one side at a time. You can hear that it's like a snap fit kit. Okay, drop of cement on there, and a drop of cement on there. So there we go, that's gone in there, lovely. Nice and parallel and everything. And then we've got, finally we've got this part here, C5, which is the pintle. Again, sand it on the sprue, get rid of any seam lines or anything. Just like so. And then I believe that's just got a flat back on it. So we'll just sand that flat. Just looking at it, checking for seam lines. Okay, and then we will put a drop of cement on here. And that is basically going to go into that recess down in there. Yes, I should have test fitted it first. Now it's rocking around in my tweezers. Yep, I should have test fitted it first because it doesn't want to go in. It's just too wide. So that just shows what happens when you don't test fit. You just, because everything's fitting so nicely, you just assume it's all going to go together. And then lo and behold, the one part you don't test doesn't fit. There we go. Drop of cement in there. I think Dottie's about to start barking because there's a dog barking outside. Nope, she's just moving. There we go. Okay, so that's the pintle in. So that's step 80 done. Now step 81 I've already done. I've already put these together. They're full of sink marks. They're not nice at all, these water cans. So I'm not going to put those in at the moment. Oh, we haven't done this either here, and we haven't done this here, or that. So I'm jumping well ahead. So I want C10 and C11. What is this here, C1? What is that for? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this sprue from here. I'm going to put that in the box. And what I'm going to do is take this off of here. Oops. and I'm going to take this off of here because I want to be able to just hold these and sand away the seam lines. These seam lines are from the mould, they're not seam lines as in glued joints, that's not what I'm referring to. Okay, so there we go. So that's the back of those cleaned up. I'll do the same on those in a minute. So we've got C10 and C11 here, so we'll do those off camera, we'll do these on camera. So we've got a little sprue gate on there, so there's a little nubbin on here. It's hard to see what's sprue gate and what isn't. Okay, so this is number 10. Right, so I will grab my skinny stick just like that. Okay, so this is 10, so 10 is going onto the side where the exhaust is. So this is going to go into there and just sit down like that. So if you remember when we talked about these gaps in here, they don't really matter because these are going to cover them up. Now I don't know what's going on here because this piece sticking out is at a different angle. Are they supposed to go on at an angle or something? It's very weird how these lower sections here that are angled, the top is square, the lower section's angled. I don't know why they've done that. So does the whole thing sit in there on an angle like that? I can still see a bloody seam line in it. Very strange. Very strange indeed. I think I'm going to have a look at some reference material because I don't like the look of that. It just looks... What I'm talking about here is when you look at the top of this, it's sort of pretty much square. But then when you look at this little piece at the bottom, it's on an angle. So when you look at it here, it looks like it's up against the bottom. It's very strange. And I can still see a bloody seam line. Come on. It's had the living daylight sanded out of it. Nothing worse than seam lines and ejector pin marks all over your model. They look awful. Right. I'll get this one cleaned up. We'll have a look at this, what this one's like. So this is number 11. That's 10. This is 11. 10 can stay over there. Dottie's going to bark. Here you can see this bracket, which is That one's going to go on the back. Like that. I think what it is, what I've done wrong, I've cut that sprue gate off at an angle and there should be a flat on there. So I think that's what I'll do, is just sand a little flat on there, and then that will fit. Yeah, okay, that's better. Right, so we'll put a drop of cement in the top of there. Bring that over. I can still see a bloody seam line, but it must be a ghost because it's had the living daylight sanding out of it. And then this one, we'll put a drop of cement in the top there, and then in the bottom there. Okay, so that's those gone in, nice and straight. Not exactly sure what they are, but I'm sure somebody will tell me. Right, I'll get the other two done, then I'll be back. Okay, so those are on now. I think they're right. So whatever. So they're on. I've got the tools here now. Some people will decide to paint the tools separately and add them after. I'll just add them and then paint them while they're on the model. That way we don't risk any glue marks or anything. And also when you weather, you can also, you know, add the dust, dirt, whatever, because you wouldn't have dust and dirt all over there and perfectly clean tools unless it just driven through a dusty field and then they fitted the tools after, which is unlikely. So this here is a wooden block, and as you can see, Airfix have done a representation of wood grain, but it's not the best. So I've got a saw. This is an art scale saw. You can get these from Brooks Models, and if you spend more than £15, you get 10% off with an MB10, and if you spend more than £50, you get 20% off with an MB20. But you can get these from there. They're absolutely brilliant. This is the isometrical one, so as you can see, the saw is off to one side. You can also get the straight one. So what I'm going to do, I've got the coarse side of the blade here, and I'm just going to literally scrape across, and I'm trying to move the saw sort of as I do it. I don't want to just straight parallel lines. And then what I'm going to do is put some scrapes in the sides as well. Now the end, remember, wouldn't have it, but the end would have a certain level of roughness about it. Probably a rough sanding stick over those scratches would be good enough. And I'm going to sand over here with a rough sanding stick, and you should then be able to see what I've done to get a kind of a coarse wood effect on it. So you can see that we've got gouges in there to represent the wood. We can actually put some more in. Okay, so there we are. You can see on there now the gouges in there, and then you can just go over with a sponge just to remove any raised bits of plastic. There we go. And that just gives more of an impression of like a block of wood, because it wouldn't be all nice and clean and tidy. Okay, so I didn't test fit, so I'm going to test fit this into there, so it's going to sit on that hole and on those two brackets at the bottom. So we'll flick it off. We'll put a drop of cement on there, just like so, and then we can drop this in, which is never as easy as it looks. There we go. So that's in there. We can just put a little drop underneath. Now obviously, because I need to paint these tools, I'm not going to fit the tailgate. So here's the shovel. Now the shovel's got a nasty ejector pin mark on the back, but it is on the back, so we don't need to worry about that. And this is going to go into that hole there. So once again, I haven't test fitted, so I may pay the price. We shall see. So this shovel's going to go into that hole there. So we'll grab tweezers. We'll plonk that in there. There we go. And then we can put a drop of cement on the handle. That's going to sit like that. Okay. Then we've got the pickaxe, and that's going to go over that. There's a pin there you can see. Tweezers. I'm expecting someone like Edward will come out with a photo etch set for this, and there'll be all straps to go around these tools and everything. And then finally we've got this axe handle, which has a short shot. It doesn't have the pin, which is indicating it should have. It doesn't have a pin. It's showing one on there, but it doesn't have one. It's weird. You can see where there should be a pin, but there's nothing there. So there's another short shot. I've applied to Airfix about the short shot parts, and I've had the sort of thank you for your application. I've had nothing else yet. There we go. Right, so that's that. So that's all our tools in, looking hunky-dory. These water containers, as I say, they're not. Let's put this saw away so we don't break the blade. The blades are quite brittle. Put that away. There we go. Right. So yeah, these water containers aren't the best. They're covered in sink marks, and they're not the greatest to fit. But as long as we get this side looking okay. We could really do with some resin ones of these guys, those of you out there that if you're doing aftermarket stuff, because these aren't very nice at all. Right, so these are going to go in there now. Which is the best one? I'll have the best one facing out. As I say, they're bloody covered in sink marks. So that one's going to go in there, and then that one is going to go in there next to it. There we go. And if you're wondering what's happened with the Sheridan, I'm still on it, but as soon as this was released I wanted to get this on the bench. So I'll be on the Sheridan once this is done, don't worry. Right, so over the page, obviously I haven't fitted the glazing yet, we've got this deflector going on, so we'll build it up, but we're not going to fit it because the windows need to go in. So let me get the parts together and then I'll come back. Okay, ejector pin city here. There are loads of ejector pin marks at the back of here, but they are easily sanded out. Luckily they're all very slightly raised, so it's worth getting rid of those because they'll look unsightly. I'm just using this Flory skinny stick, which has a coarse black and a sponge fine on there. So what you do is you sand away the mark with that, and then you use the fine to sort out the sanding marks. There we go. So that's that done. Now they're telling you to remove two little nubbins on here. They're not even on there, so there's another short shot. So this part here, C14, which has still got a bloody mould seam on the bottom of it, go away. Alright, so this one here is going to have this is actually C16 because it's got the hole on the inside, so that's going to go on that way. Okay, so that angle there is going to go into there, so we'll put some cement in there. Just like so. Okay, and then we do the same on the other side. There's ejector pin marks on these as well, on those tabs that stick out, the parts that go into the cab. They want to be removed because they're going to look unsightly. And then what we can do, obviously I haven't been able to dry fit all this because just going to sand the ends of these a bit, because obviously you can only glue it once. Okay, so we need to spring those together a bit. Bring those together and then put a drop of cement in each end. Just like so. I'm just going to brush some cement up there because we've got dust and sandy marks everywhere. I just want to check the fit into those pre-drilled holes. Yes, it's perfect. That's just going to sit on there like that. Okay, so that's our water deflector dealt with. I'm going to make sure it's square. I'm looking at it now, you can see that it's not square. Bloody sea marks. They're a nightmare. I think it's just the fact that the plastic's green and the sea marks are showing up as white. Okay, so I'm going to temporarily put this on here, if it will stay. Check that everything's square. There, it doesn't want to stay. Okay, so what I think I'll do is let that dry off. I think I'll let that dry off and then tweak it once it's dry. There we are. Right, I'm going to call that a day. So I will see you all back for part 11, and we'll look at getting these hatches on and stuff, and then we've got all the sides to go on. We've got the wheels built up and then we've got some little greeblies going on. I'm not going to fit this clear exhaust part because it's horrible. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. We'll see. As I say, there is a 3D resin set out there which includes that grill in 3D printed resin, but it's £15 and I do not want to pay £15 just for a grill. So what I'll probably do is make one. I think it's called Inside the Armour, the company. So what I'll probably do is make one from some spare photo etch that I've got and just have a mesh sheet going over the top. I'm not using that clear part, it's horrible. Right, see you all next week or next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.